So speaking of the Pakistan trip, then you're planning the trip. What's the initial
No
itinerary?
plan, bro, at
Oh,
all.
really?
If you knew me, then you know that'd be a consistent thread. I'm a kind of buy a one way ticket kind of guy, and that's exactly what I did. So but
Right.
I have some of my nanny siblings who are there, so my nana and another nanny there. So like, I literally just bought
Where?
the one way ticket in Karachi.
Okay.
So one way ticket to Karachi, and then I was like, look, like, I just want to travel through Pakistan and get to know it. So I spent about 10 days in Karachi first because Karachi is wild. Like
Mm.
my favorite city in Pakistan, by the way, by far.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
Karachi is just madness, and I love that because I'm from London, so it's like a similar madness to it and diversity also. So Karachi was super cool, and then I just went with the energy, bro. Like if there
Mm.
was things happening in certain cities, I went, stayed there for a week, and then left when I was done. And that's how I like to travel because look, you need to leave room for you know when you plan too rigidly, like your experience becomes a series of events that you've ticked off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whereas the way that I like to personally travel is that it's energy and you feel it, right? Go to a place, really feel like you've got to understand the tempo and the pace. When you're done with it, you move on. But like
Mm.
things happen in that spontaneity, right? That you never would have imagined. Like some random guy from a village invites you to his family house for a meal and shows you around this beautiful valley. And then he's like, "You're not leaving.
Mm.
You're going to stay with us," and you end up staying for 2 3 days and having the most
Yeah.
mind-blowing experience because you've allowed room for that to happen, right? And like that's not really advice, but like for me, like in my particular context, that's what Pakistan was. It was just a series of spontaneous beautiful
Spontaneous.
moments.
Yeah. So what I
um
was wondering though was it's again that experience of, we're both talking about Pakistan, but because I was there for 10 years from 2000 to 2010, that was like peak,
sure.
fucking terrorism. And then that
Yeah,
goes on
yeah, yeah.
street crime and this and that. So the idea of someone, and I saw in some of the clips that you put up, you don't speak Urdu, right?
No,
You speak English and Arabic. I think you do speak.
I
And
think
that
English,
guy,
Arabic, a bit of
one
Indonesian.
guy, yeah, yeah, yeah. One guy started talking to you in Arabic when you had gone to this place alone. And I was like, he's in, he's not, why is he alone? Whenever someone goes to Pakistan and they're like just not familiar with it and they're alone, I'm like, holy shit, is it safe for them? But everyone's like, fine. So I'm like, yeah, that was just something that struck me. But anyway, um,
And
how'd you
that was an
navigate?
interesting moment for me, right? And just for
Yeah,
context, like, yeah, like I was alone and I walked to this restaurant, which again, people are like, what are you doing?
yeah.
I think, yeah, like for me, like, you know what it is? Like, I guess, like, look, I've traveled a lot and like,
Mm,
I know Pakistan it can be a dangerous, but I don't want to belittle that experience of like,
sure.
you know, it's super safe and like people are overreacting and, people have had real situations of gunpoint
Hmm.
and like being robbed in the street call, even being even worse, and like I don't want to take away from that experience because it's legit, but I also think that like I never felt unsafe in Karachi at any given moment. Yes, everyone's carrying, like
Yeah,
literally everyone
everyone.
has like
Yeah.
everyone's a gun, but after
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get after you get over that, I've also been to Yemen where everyone's carrying, but you get over the kind of visual shock of it, and then it's just kind of like you know you, you realize that I don't know, part of me felt, and this is an unpopular opinion and I'm actually second guessing whether I should even say it. Look, I think things 5 or 6 years ago were very bad from what I've
Hmm.
heard, right? And I think like I would have behaved very differently if I was in Pakistan in those moments.
For sure.
But Karachi today, I mean, it was my first time. It did feel a lot safer. Pakistan in general, and like I feel like our infatuation with safety as a result of that history can also
Mm.
be a crux or an obstacle to really experiencing the street life of
Yeah.
Karachi,
Yeah.
right? Like imagine I was super paranoid and super like protecting myself. I never would have met that kind stranger, right? That spontaneous moment and had dinner together with him.
Yeah.
And like this is what my only like one of my few critiques of like Karachi as a whole is that I felt like it was such a disconnected society in the sense that because of security concerns and history, that people will literally, especially if you come from a certain class, you'll be picked up in a car
Mm.
from point A and you will drive to point B, get out your car, 3 steps, you're in the place that you're meant to be in. In between, there is no interaction with any humans.
Yeah.
The only interaction you have is like with a glass window and probably someone begging to you at a traffic light, right? So what happens in terms of your real life interactions with people who are different from you?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's no space to cultivate empathy. There's no space to really like harness relationships or to get to know people and all that kind of stuff. And I found myself so like shut off to like the streets of Karachi in these taxis and these drivers, I'm friends' drivers' cars and all that kind of stuff. And part of me needed to go for that walk, to be honest with you, right? It was just like, I need to feel the energy of the space. And like when I did, like things happened. And look, don't get me wrong, I don't want to belittle it again. It takes
No,
one
sure.
experience
Sure.
to kind of like ruin all of that. But I do feel like there is a safety to be had in Karachi. But maybe a lot of people don't want, maybe
I think it's like PTSD almost. Like the
it
whole
is.
city is like, because the 90s in Karachi were bad. And then early 2000s, sort of, there was a bit for like a lull for a while. And then like street crime goes up. Then all of Pakistan has terrorism. So that's like a good 30 years, right? So that's like a generation that's only seen Karachi that way. And then all Pakistani cities are just so like car road focused. Like there's not much pedestrian experience anymore. And that just separates things even more because, like, yeah, we don't walk anywhere. You know, like London, you can walk, it's enormous, but it's perhaps in many places better to not have a car. It's easier to not have a car and just walk or take the tube or whatever. But in Pakistan, it's like fucking
that's so that legacy of like, you know, like distrust and lack of safety, what it's done is just push people further apart.
Yeah.
And like and I feel that, and it's sad. That's the sadness that I feel, because I think like the classes and the groups of people are becoming further and further apart.
Super, yeah.
Where and that's the only thing that I felt kind of sad about. It's like, how do you bridge this society that's been so torn and fractured, and even the architecture, like you said, even the architecture of the city is facilitating that disconnect, right? Like but yeah.